cold calling is intimidating. It requires the most amount of effort. There's more room for you to screw up, and people are just scared about cold calling. And that's the first thing that we really need to cover today is the fear of cold calling. And believe me, I know how that feels. When I first got my first ever telesales job, I just got kicked out of university. I got into a telesales job. I was an introvert at this time, and I got into my first sales meeting and we had our training. We were talking about how we're going to cold call 100 companies per day. I remember when I got my script and I was shaking. I was trembling with fear making my first cold call. And I was forced to cold call 100 companies every single day, because if I didn't, I was going to get the sack. And over time, I got better and better and better. But I truly know how it feels to be afraid of picking up the phone. You will do anything, flicking through your email, social media. You'll put off any task and pretend you're busy to not pick up that next phone call. And so one of the biggest things that helped me out when I was in my first sales job, when I was in sales training, when I said to my trainer, look, I'm really, really scared of picking up the phone. I'm so intimidated by having to do these cold calls. They said, Jordan, what are you afraid of happening? I said, well, I'm afraid of them saying this. Or I'm afraid of them rejecting me. Or I'm afraid of this. They said, okay, fine. So you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of not knowing what to say when somebody gives you an objection. I just want to start by saying that an objection is not a rejection. It's just a request for more information. And they said to me, look, Jordan, write down every single objection, possible objection that you think you could get on that phone call. What are all the things that could go wrong? What are all the things that they could say to you? Write them all down on a bit of paper and show it to me, and I'll work with you on them. And so essentially what they did was they worked with me on coming up with an answer to every single possible objection in my mind. Now, I knew that, or he knew that the majority of those objections I wrote down, they were not going to happen. They were just made up fake things in my mind, okay? But this was things that in my subconscious were bothering me, which was preventing me from picking up the phone and being confident on the phone and not sounding robotic, okay? All these things you need to loosen up on a phone call. You need to make sure you're very, very comfortable, because if not, you're going to fall into the trap of sounding like a salesman. You're going to fall into the trap of sounding robotic. That's not what you want. You need to be really, really comfortable on the phone. And to do that, you need to understand what you are going to say from your objections. You need to get rid of the fear of failure when you are cold calling. So write down all of the potential objections, and next to them, write down all of the things that you can say to fire back to that business owner. We're going to come back to just a couple of things later on in this video. It doesn't have to be business owners, it can be for customers as well, okay? But we're going to come back to objections. Now, the next thing that you want to make sure you do is understand that you have nothing to lose. When you're cold calling somebody, you're trying to secure new business. You didn't have that business in the first place. You didn't have that client. You didn't have that money in your bank. So if you come off that cold call and you still don't have anything, you haven't lost anything at all apart from one cold lead. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them about. And I think once you understand the fact that you have absolutely nothing to lose by picking up the phone and everything to gain, then you'll be a lot more comfortable. And I know this is really cheesy, this is a really corny thing to say, but sales really is a numbers game. Like anything in life, the first time you do it, you're going to screw up. And you need to accept that that's fine. You're going to fail, you're going to screw up, you're going to stumble over your words, you're going to say something silly, you're going to be like, why the hell did I say that? But you learn from it. And I think if you learn to accept that you are going to fail when you first start out, you'll be a lot more comfortable on the phone as well, and you'll start to eradicate that fear. So just accept that every single call you make, you'll get better and better and better. You'll realize that you can change your tonality. You'll realize that there's certain buzzwords, which will make people respond in a more favorable way. And this depends on what industry you're working in. This is something that only you can work out over calling tens and tens and tens of people over time. So force yourself to call up businesses, because believe me, there is no outreach strategy in the world which connects with people on a deeper level straight away than cold calling. Now, there are a few other things that have really worked for me that I would recommend you doing before you start cold calling to really make yourself feel a lot more comfortable, because you need to loosen up, okay? You need to be comfortable about making these cold calls. So the first thing you want to do is get yourself in a space on your own, okay? You don't want to be around people. You really don't want to be. That telesales environment is not a nice environment to be in. We had headsets, and I'd recommend you getting a headset if you have the opportunity. Or, of course, if you've got your mobile phone, that'll be absolutely fine as well. But ideally, you want your hands-free flowing, okay? You want some kind of hands-free. So that way you can be expressionable. Although they can't see you, the way that you speak, I mean, look at me right now. What am I doing? I'm throwing my hands all over the place, but because I'm being more expressionable, I'm more passionate, I'm more into the things that I'm actually talking about. So you want your body, you want to be able to be free. And you also don't want that intimidation of having somebody listening to you or being conscious about the fact that someone is listening to you, your wife, your children. You feel like they might judge you on the things you're saying and judge you on how your call is going. And so try to get away from people. Walk into the other end of the house, walk to the other end of the office, be on your own, be isolated, and you're going to be a lot more comfortable in your own skin. You'll be more comfortable to screw up essentially without anybody having the chance to judge you. Another thing I like to do before every single call is practice breathing affirmations, okay? Have a look into Wim Hof. You can go on YouTube and have a look. This is like a dumbed down version of that. What I like to do is take some really deep breaths before I start actually calling, okay? And this surges my body full of oxygen and I get more energy before I'm about to call, especially if I'm doing like an afternoon calling session when naturally your energy is a little bit lower anyway because you've used it in the morning. So I practice really deep breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth. I'll do that about 5 times. Very simply, I'll do it right now. Okay, and I'll do that 5 times. Okay, go watch Wim Hof. It's this kind of stuff really does help. It's not just la-di-da-di-da stuff like up in the fairies. It really does help you get concentrated. It's almost like a mini form of meditation before you're going on every call. Try and do that before you then jump in between every single call. You're almost like resetting your psyche. So those are the things I'd recommend you doing before you actually pick up the phone and start calling. It is so key that you are in the right frame of mind. In fact, I would put your frame of mind when you are calling, your mindset, above everything else, your scripts, the whole lot. You need to make sure that you are relaxed, you're in a positive state of mind, you are optimistic, and you're ready to change someone's life, to impact them for the better, no matter how big or small that is, okay? Because if your product or your service genuinely has the power to impact someone's life for the better, which is why you're selling it in the first place, then you are doing them an injustice by not calling up that person and giving them the opportunity to improve their life, improve their business, improve whatever it is that your product or service fulfills, okay? Because at the end of the day, when you strip it all back, you're one human being speaking to another human being, one of them trying to positively impact the other person. So you need to really give yourself that affirmation. Remind yourself that that's what you're trying to do. You're doing them injustice by not calling up that person. So pump yourself up. Get yourself in the right state of mind. You're going to call that company up. You're going to call that customer up and you're going to smash it and you're going to kill it, all right? That's the frame of mind you need to be in, because if you ooze negativity, if you're in a defeatist mindset and you're already thinking, oh, well, they might say this or they might say that or what happens about this, then you're going to ooze negativity over that phone call. You're going to receive negativity back. I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction, okay? Everything that you do on that phone call will then be negative. It'll come across in your tonality. It'll come across in the words that come out from your mind, okay? Because when you're thinking about what to say next, when you're put on the spot, your brain's just sending signals to your vocal cords, all right? I'm not sure if that's the technical way of saying it, but if you're thinking negative thoughts, your words aren't going to come across the way you want them to, okay? So you need to ensure you're in the right frame of mind before every single cold call. That's not la-di-da fancy fairy stuff, okay? That's real life and it has a huge impact. Now, once you've got your mind right, the first thing you want to do is ensure your prospecting is done properly. Your lead generation, your research. You need to make sure you know the person you are calling up by their first name. You know their business name, whether it's a service or a product, whatever that may be, or there's some kind of pain point or something you can highlight to them over the phone. You want to say something which makes that person feel like they are not the 100th person that you have called in that day. You want them to feel like they are the only person you have called. You speak to them, you're a friendly voice, addressing them by their name, saying something which is unique to them, letting them know that you have made the effort to call them, okay? So you need to ensure your prospecting is done properly. Do not aimlessly call people if you don't know who they are and you're just mindlessly selling products to somebody who may or may not want what you're offering. That's just a sure way to waste your own time. So ensure that your prospecting is done correctly. The second thing you want to do is ensure your sales script is in place. Now, this video is not about how to put together a sales script. If you want me to put together a video about how to come up with a cold calling script for your business, drop me down a comment below. Let me know. Put down there sales script, okay? Let me know and I'll create that video for you. I'll break down all of the things that you need to include in your sales script. But to really quickly cover that right now, you need to have a sales script of some sort. Not so you can read off like a sheet of paper and sound robotic. It's so you can have a framework. Going back to when I was in corporate sales, we had this sales script that everybody was given when we started in the company. I worked my way up to the top 3 people in the company within the first 3 months, okay? Within the first couple of weeks, I'd scrapped my script. The reason why it was key, though, that I still still had a script to start off with, is so I could understand the psychology behind what I was saying. What were the reasons? What were the goals for each sentence that I was saying? What emotion was I trying to trigger in my buyer's or my potential buyer's mind, okay? So once you actually understand the psychology behind what it is you are saying and why you are saying it, it'll enable you to win calls. It'll enable you to be more adaptable. And that's when you truly become a good salesperson. When you can adapt your character, adapt your script, adapt your tonality to every individual person that you are speaking to. One quick tip, going off on a tangent, we'll bring it back to the sales script. One quick tip on that note, whilst it's on my mind, is if you are speaking to someone and you recognize that they have a certain tonality, because everybody has a different tonality. Some people will be upbeat, some people will be a bit downbeat, some people will talk slowly, some people will talk fast, me. You want them to feel like you are on their level. And the only way to really be able to adapt your tonality, to adapt your scripts, to adapt the way you deliver your pitch is if you are fully comfortable with that sales script in the first place. And the only way you can be comfortable with that is if you actually have one. So it's important to have a sales script, but it's also important for you to very quickly learn it, understand the reasons why you are saying what you are saying, and then allow yourself to completely go off on a tangent and adapt yourself to every individual person that you are speaking to. That's why when people say to me, Jordan, what are the exact words you say over the phone? And I say it changes every single time. Because one day I might be speaking to some older gentleman who's maybe a little bit more stern. He's a little bit, doesn't really understand what I'm talking about so much if it's like a marketing-based service. And I'm not stereotyping there, but let's say I'm speaking to someone like that. I might need to slow things up. I might need to speak a bit more in layman's terms. One day I might be speaking to some Jack the Lad young guy who knows all of the bells and whistles about social media, and I need to be this not overpowering, but I need to be this authoritative figure who's essentially coming at him with the exact same energy and force that he's coming to me at. Okay, we need to replicate, we need to mimic the tonality and the energy that we're getting from somebody else, so they feel like we are on their wavelength, and so we can connect with them on a deeper level, so they can then trust us to buy from us. And again, the only way we can do that is if we learn our sales script. So what does a sales script need to include? Okay, the first thing we need to include in a sales script is some kind of diffusion. We need to diffuse the person right away, because when we're cold calling, they're instantly going to think, oh Christ, here we go. I can't get this person off the phone call. They're going to waste my time. So we need to have something in there which is going to diffuse them, to let them know we're not going to waste their time. Maybe we're just asking them, do you have a minute? Maybe we're saying to them, look, I know you're busy, so am I, so I'm going to be quick. Okay, so we have some kind of diffusion. We then have an introduction, so we introduce ourselves very, very briefly. We then have what. So what is the reason that we are calling, and then why. Okay, so this is what I actually want from you. Okay, this is why I'm calling. I want to do this. I want to have a meeting with you. So those are the 4 things you want to make sure you include in your sales script. And again, if you want to create a video, if you want me to create a video, drop me down a comment below and I'll create the one going really breaking down each of those individual things so you can write a bespoke script for your service or your product. But you need to make sure that you have a structure to your pitches, ensuring though that it's not too long. You don't want to be rambling. You don't want to be like speaking for a minute without the other person having a chance to respond. If you are speaking to someone on the phone and you're giving them a quick pitch, it needs to be a maximum like 30 seconds long so that person can register what it is you're saying and you can get out your message and get to the goal. Get straight to the point. Do not waste that person's time. I have it time and time again where you're speaking to someone on the phone and they're giving you some sales pitch and you just can't wait to get them off. You're bored of what they're saying to you, okay? Your attention span is gone. They had that within the first like 10, 20, 30 seconds. But after that, you're just like, how can I get this person off? When can I interrupt them? And you do not want to be in that position. You want to be quick fire, straight to the point. This is the reason I'm calling. This is why you need to speak to me. I'd like to have a meeting with you. Now, that then brings me to another point, which is I would always recommend if you're cold calling somebody, you do not try and sell on that first call. You don't want to jump into bed with someone the first time you meet them, okay? You're going to catch an STD. You want to make sure that you warm that person up. You give them enough interest for them to then think, yeah, cool, I want to speak to this person another time. I want to hear what they have to say. And so if you're selling a service, you've got a service-based business, I would always recommend you just using your cold call to set a meeting and nothing else. Use it to strike interest, tell the person why you called, be a friendly person who's mimicking their tonality, who they can relate to, who you can then arrange a meeting with, so you can then do your research properly and you can close them on a second call, on a meeting, okay, on a physical meeting, on a Zoom call, on a phone call, whatever that may be. But you can then invest your time into learning the ins and outs of that business so you can prepare yourself for actually closing them. Because more often than not, when you've got a lead list in front of you, no matter how great your mind is and how good you are at remembering things, if you've got 20 companies in front of you and you're calling them up one by one, if one of them puts you on the spot and wants you to pitch them on the spot and sell you their service, you are not going to be able to remember everything that you need to know about that company, even if you've got a little bit of notes on your CRM system, okay? Do not be pressured into closing on the phone. Let them know that you need to learn more about their business, more about them, more about how you can best serve them, and arrange a meeting with them so you can do that. 10 to 15 minutes, right? Now, this works because people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. They don't want some stranger on the phone to them, just randomly selling them some service, okay? They want to be excited about something. They want to desire something. It's like when you're speaking to somebody of the opposite sex, okay? Or someone of the same sex. And you are attracted to that person and you're trying to get to know them better, right? If that person is really keen, like we've all heard it, oh, they're too keen, I'm not interested, right? They're just on you, constantly messaging you, blah, 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 like, come on, like, you lose interest. But if they're like a little bit standoffish, it's like, they send you a message and then they don't respond and then like, oh, I'll speak to you tomorrow or something like that. You're like, oh, I want to speak to that person again. Same with sales, okay? You give them that, you kind of dangle that carrot in front of them. You speak to them, right? You call them up. You're ultra enthusiastic. You're smiling through the phone, okay? This is another key. Smile through the phone when you're speaking. You feel silly, but like if you smile, the whole tonality of your voice changes. When you smile, you're more passionate. People can actually hear you smiling over the phone. Believe me, do it on your next cold call. It's going to have a massive difference. Or practice it with your friends. They're going to be like, oh my God, you sound happy. But they're going to ooze that energy. They're going to feel that energy. They're going to reciprocate that energy too. God, I can talk about this for hours. We need to really do a whole cold calling series. But you need to say something unique to them. Prove to them that you have done your research. And if they're chatty, because sometimes you'll speak to someone who is chatty on the phone, they are keen when you are speaking to them straight away. Doesn't mean you then have to start selling them. This is just an opportunity for you to build more initial rapport with this person, to get them more interested in you, to dangle more carrots. Tell them a success story about someone you've worked with who's similar to them, someone in their industry, one of their competitors. Make them interested. Make them enticed. These are the things you want to do on a cold call. You don't want to be selling straight away. You do not want to be trying to make people buy on impulse. Because when someone normally buys on impulse, then there's a regret that comes very close to impulse. Okay, impulse buy leads to regret. And so we want to make sure that we are not forcing somebody into bed. We don't want them to lust. Okay, we want them to love us. We want them to have long-term passion for our brand, for our product, so they become a long-term customer. We have a lifetime value for this person. Those are the true valuable customers. And those are built on relationships. And ultimately, any sales message, any sales outreach should be built around establishing relationships, genuine relationships in a bid to genuinely help the other person that you are speaking to. Now, on that note, the final key that I want to talk about in this video is to just have fun with it. To allow yourself to enjoy cold calling, to not look at it like this negative task, something you have to get done, some burden, but really realize that cold calling is one of them very few things in sales which enables you to scrub up on the most valuable skill in the world, and that's communication. Because when you truly master communication, you will exceed in every area of your life that requires you to communicate or build relationships with other people. And cold calling is one of them things that forces you to speak to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, to adapt, to screw up, to get this fuck it mentality. Just speak to people, have conversations, provide value, lead with value in everything that you do, be genuine and be passionate, and just enjoy speaking to a variety of different people and allowing yourself to test out new things, say things, push the barrier, say things maybe you didn't think you can get away with, but maybe you stumble across a tactic that works, change your tonality, mimic people, learn about communication. And the only person that can truly master communication is yourself. I can't tell you to say something in the exact same way that I say it, and you're going to have the exact same result as I'm going to have by doing it, because that's my tonality, that's my personality, that's my vocabulary, that's not yours. So I can't force you to say the exact same thing and expect you to have the exact same result. The only way that you can learn what works for you is by doing this over time. And the only way that you're going to be able to do this over time is if you allow yourself to enjoy it, is if you don't think of cold calling like a burden, if you accept that you have nothing to lose by picking up that phone, apart from a little bit of time, but even that time that you've spent, you're still using that time to master communication, which is going to help you exceed in every single area within your business. So, have fun with cold calling. Don't look at it like a burden and adopt a fuck it mentality. What will be, will be. Get straight to the point, provide value, dangle that carrot and make that person interested. Don't sell to them. Make them want to buy. Okay guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you have got a ton of value from this. There hasn't been a lot of structure because I really just want to talk about what comes to mind when I think about cold calling, the techniques that I use, and I'm sure there's many other things that I can talk about. And so I am going to create more cold calling videos because I think cold calling is one of those skill sets which you can transfer across in any sales outreach that you do. So guys, I think the first one that I'd like to talk about is the sales script. If you want me to make that sales script video, let me know so I know there's demand for that video and I can break down how exactly you can come up with a script for your business, for your product or your service. Something else I'd like to talk about is objection and the fact that objection is inevitable and you need to accept it and really embrace objection, because objections are amazing. Objections is what enables us to learn what we need to adapt. We can adapt our whole script based around the objections we're getting. We can preempt objections. We can get them out before people even have them come to their mind. Objections are fantastic. You need to embrace them and not see them as negative things. They're not a rejection, they're just a request for more information. And you need to ensure, if you're cold calling right now and you're getting stumbled over objections, you need to ensure that you push back every single time, no matter what.